Welcome to the Relationship Mapping Work Group. My name is Jennifer Filla, President of Aspire Research Group, and I'm your host today. Our speaker is MelodySong. She's going to be talking about NodeXL and her success at the Calgary Zoo. MelodySong is a Senior Prospect Research Officer with the Calgary Zoo. Originally from Beijing, China, Melody has been living and working in Canada for 16 years. A graduate of the Master Program in Communication Studies from the University of Calgary, Melody has 10 years of experience as a marketing and communications professional for local and international companies, including Red Point Media, Edelman PR Worldwide, and Schlumberger China. In 2006, she embarked on a career in fundraising as the Director of Development for the Alberta Ballet. After working as a frontline fundraiser for 2 years, she discovered a passion for prospect research and was able to focus on prospect researching with Southern Alberta Institute of Technology until a recent appointment with the Calgary Zoo. Melody is a board member of APRA Canada, curriculum committee member for the APRA International Conference in 2014, and a frequent presenter at both APRA and AFP. Thanks so much for joining us, Melody, and sharing your success stories with NodeXL.
I see lots of applications for us, specifically through major gifts. So I was working for Southern Alberta Institute of Technology at the end of a capital campaign, and we're looking for new prospects to kind of, exhausted our pool. And so I was tasked to, really initiated this project to map our campaign cabinet. So basically what I did is to kind of, create an individual relationship map for every single volunteer we have on our campaign cabinet. At first, it was all about visual. I wanted to visualize it so that it looks pretty. You have dots and you have notes and whatever. But then I found that with this tool, it's so flexible. You can put them together and it becomes a big universe. So what you're seeing here as my first, title slide is actually, it's our database actually. It's not just the campaign cabinet. I'll show you that one later, which is less clustered. But with this tool, you can actually put in, create a big universe, either from your database or you create one yourself, and to further analyze it and find new prospects and find connectors and influencers. So let me illustrate it a little bit more. Here. So our mapping objective here is to, so now I'm working for the Calgary Zoo, and our new problem is that we are at the beginning of a capital campaign, and we want to recruit campaign cabinet members and create, a network based on our board members and existing volunteers. So I want to use relationship mapping tool to expand our current network of volunteers at the beginning of a capital campaign and recruit campaign cabinet. So in order to do that, I want to talk a little bit about the basics of relationship mapping, especially with NodeXL. So there's some lingos that we use, or there's some specific terms that we use in mapping those relations. So when I talk about edges, that means relationship. One person related to another, that line in between is actually called an edge in the NodeXL. Vertexes and node means individual or organization. So those are the little dots that you see in the map. They're called, in this particular software, vertex or node, or actually really in the social network analysis discipline, that's what it's called too. And degrees are connections. If Melody is connected to Jen, and Jen is connected to Olga, now I have a 2 degrees connection with Olga. So with this tool, you can actually explore up to 4 degrees of connections. Once you put all these people together, you can see their interrelationship and, how people are related to each other, so that you can have one volunteer related to someone else and then connect to the prospect. So that's the path I want to look to when I'm doing relationship mapping. So really what NodeXL is an edge list. So it's just a 2 column on an Excel spreadsheet. So the whole software, when you open it up, it looks like a spreadsheet. And you put in vertex 1 and vertex 2, so basically you put in all these connections in 2 columns. As illustrated here, John Doe is connected to ABC Corp, and then ABC Corp is connected to Jane Doe, and John Doe connected to Jane Doe, if you want it. And it actually has built-in deduplication functions so that you don't have to worry about, if there are duplicated relationships. So those are just the basics of NodeXL. And this is an illustration of what you can do with relationship mapping, also with NodeXL, right? Like we use colors and different images, or colors of the node, or colors of the line, or different style of color to illustrate someone's relationship. So there was a question before this session, like a couple of days ago, a registrant asked a question like, how to distinguish between the board relationship and the family relationship. This is how we do it. Like, we can either use colored lines, or we can define the node or the vertex to illustrate different relationships and different people. Like, so we can have board member in a different color or family member in another color. So this is just someone took lots of time to do this relationship map, and I specifically like the last one. Dashed line signifies one of the parties is from an alternative reality. Another thing that I'm looking at, which NodeXL can provide to me, is the analysis of degree centrality, betweenness centrality, and closeness centrality. And those are terms from something called a kite graph. So if you actually Google kite graph and Wikipedia, this will come up in Wikipedia. And this will actually tell you the importance of this person within this network. So to illustrate that, Rick has the highest degree centrality in this network because Rick has the most connections. He has, most people connected to him. He seems to be the center of this network. So he obviously is an influencer in this network. So this centrality illustrates his importance in this network. And Tien, this person here, has the highest betweenness centrality. She doesn't have a lot of connections. She only has 3 connections. However, she serves as a gatekeeper between this network on the left and this other network on the right. So she's more of a connector instead of an influencer. And the closest centrality means that Carla and Tanya, both people, have the highest closeness centrality, which means that they have the shortest path to everyone in this network. If you calculate it, they have pretty much probably 2 degrees to everyone. So they demonstrate the highest closeness centrality. In my experience with NodeXL, I'm working mostly with the degree centrality, so the influencer, and betweenness centrality, which is the connector. I found those very important matrix for me, because when I'm, for example, when I'm trying to recruit a campaign cabinet, this is one of the things that I want to look at is this person an influencer, or is this person a connector? We probably need, both type of people on our campaign cabinet, and we want to evaluate everyone against those matrices. Before we actually do some mapping, I want to show you what I'm talking about with the kite graph here. In NodeXL, you can actually calculate these metrics just with the click of a button, really. I visualized the whole network for our RE database, really, with our, more than 3,000 donors. And you can actually just click group matrix, and it calculates the degree, the betweenness centrality, the closeness centrality, which never worked for me. I don't know why. And PageRank is also something, it's an algorithm that illustrates the importance of the person. A British person called Page come up with it. So it ranks the person's importance in this network. So as you can see, this whole thing is an Excel spreadsheet, so you can actually sort by degree, you can sort by betweenness, you can sort by PageRank in order to see how one constituent in your database is related to the network, and also to see who's the most influential people in your network, who's the most connected people, or the people who connect networks in your network. So that's one of the things that I found extremely useful. So next, I want to show you some mapping with NodeXL. So this is really a relationship mapping DIY. So it's not something like Prospect Visual, where you can actually, you purchase data and then you can click on the map and then see where the relationships are and everything. They're all there for you. With NodeXL, you actually have to research the relationship first, and then, like for me, I put them in an Excel spreadsheet in a very convenient, format, so that I can easily copy the 2 columns out to the NodeXL template. So this is basically the Excel spreadsheet I come up with for individual relationship maps. So for each of our board member, and able to find more people to join our campaign, I basically mapped all our board members. So for each one of them, they have, in this case, Chuck Wagon, I have all of his first degree relations listed here. So primary affiliation, so he is a CEO of Stampede Energy, he is on the board of Oil Sands Resources, he's a past director of Energy. And then I research all of his current and past relationships, and I list them here. So the person, the title, the affiliation, relationship, the nature of the relationship. So are they board, or their family? Family will be wife or son. Organizations that connects them, if there's any. Most of people are connected with organizations. So I like to map with that connection in mind so that I can see where the connection comes from on the map. Some people have more than one relationship, I put it there. And then I do a little bit research on their relationship to the zoo. And I rate them too. Zoo gifts, and I have key relationship manager, if it's assigned or not, the linkage details. So just by doing this Excel spreadsheet, I can actually already find lots of new prospects. Some people that actually exist in our database, but we never pay attention to because we've never thought about, they could be someone that know one of our volunteers. So after this, like I said, I copy-paste the relationships into the two columns in the NodeXL template. So here you can see, I go back, I copy this column and this column, and this column, and then repeat, this column if there's any more organizations involved. And then I make it all just one sheet of, nicely vertex 1, vertex 2, and how they're related. And this is what we call an edge list. So in this list, we can define the edge. So because Chuck is the past director of Network Energy, I can actually define that past relationship by using a dashed line instead of a solid line. And then I can, here, past relationship, I can illustrate that's past director. This is what we call a vertex list. So on the NodeXL template, you can have the edge list sheet, and you click on the next sheet is the vertex sheet, where you can actually define the properties of the node, which means that all of these are unique nodes from your 2 columns, for example, Chuck Wagon, and you can actually define the color and shape and size of their visualization, of their avatar, for lack of a term, on the map. So for Chuck, I want it to be a label, and all the other connections, I want it to be kind of a sphere, like a node, a dot. And for all the board connections, I want them to be red. So all of these board members who sits on the same board, with Chuck, they will all come out as a red dot. And family connections, so Tara Wagon, who's the wife, I want it to be green, so I put it in green. So this is pretty much it. So that's the individual map that can be, so Chuck here, he's connected to Stampede, he's past director of network energy, and then all the red dots are board connections, and green dot in this case only one, are family connections. And I also define the size of these nodes by their connection to my organization, which is the zoo. So because in the spreadsheet that I did for them, I ranked them 1 to 3 to their linkage to the zoo. So they probably has given to the zoo in the past, attended events at the zoo in the past. So those people, I can make them bigger. So it's more obvious that, hey, these people are already connected to the zoo. If we want to get to check, we should probably contact these people instead of the others because they have a closer relationship with us. So this is just a simplest way of illustrating the individual relationship map. You can make it way more complicated as well. Like, you can define different properties for different reasons. You can add columns onto it as well. This is another board member, like fictional board member of our board, Bakaru. This is his map. The reason why I'm showing you his map is that I want to show you that we can actually connect the two maps, or how many more maps that you want. So this is Buck, and he's connected to all these people and, different organizations and such. If we connect the two, which means that I just copy-paste both of their two columns together, software will visualize this big map, and we can see before they weren't connected before, but now it looks like they are connected through different ways. Chuck is connected to oil sands, to Brian Herdman, who is also sitting on the board with Buck at Saddle Creek Foundation. So this is where you can, when you put all these maps together, you can see the interconnections with people. And again, because all these bigger dots are illustrated with a higher linkage to the zoo, when we're looking at this map, we can actually look at what's the best way to approach our prospects, through the people who are closest to us. Another neat thing of NodeXL is that this is how I work. This is a screenshot. You have the NodeXL template, and then you have the illustration on the right side. I find it really easy if you have two screens. It will not be that easy if you only have one screen, because with one screen you can't really see both. So with two screens, you can actually click on one of the dots and then do select graph. So once you're in a big relationship map database and big relationship map, you just want to look at one person's connection, you can actually select subgraph and extract that and just look at that so that it's not very clustered. So this is what it comes up. So if I select one dot, right click, and then select the select graph function, it will highlight all the connections that you want to select. And here it also gives you an option to select first degree, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, up to 4.5 degrees of connections. So this is just a neat tool where when you are in a big database, you can actually select and then find out, expand your individual map. So here's an example. This is my board. I've done a board individual map for the Calgary Zoo, which is in the middle is the red dot. All the board members are the green ones. And we have some key prospects who are yellow dots. And I did individual maps to all of them, put them all together, and this is what I get. And you can actually see that physically, you can see the green dots are closer to the red dot. There's some algorithms that they calculate, so you can actually physically see the distance between the prospect and your organization. So the next step, I want to select the prospect on the very outer edge of this network, and I want to see how this prospect can be connected to the zoo. So that's how I select it, and select subgraph and select different degrees of connection. So this is first degree, second degree, so you can see more nodes are selected, third degree, and then where we already reached the center, which is the Calgary Zoo. So this is the map I want. I want to see this map, so it illustrates his path to the Calgary Zoo. So at this point, I will subtract this map out to a different NodeXL sheet. It will subtract all the information out for you. So it will subtract who those nodes are and such. And you can actually see this, and you can actually go back to the sheet and see who they are, or actually they have a tooltip where you mouse over it, you can see the node, or you can actually label everyone, and everyone's name will show up. So in this case, you can see from this prospect, I can go, through different routes to reach him. From at least 2 board members are connected with this prospect in some way. So that's pretty much, what I want to demonstrate today. I did 35, as a DIY relationship mapping. It's not as difficult as you thought. I did 35 relationship maps, which gives me 2,823 individuals or organizations. A lot of them are new to us, and a lot of them, like I said, we did little linkage research and find new prospects already. And NodeXL, of course, helped me to find the path to connect the prospect and you, discover new leads and friends, and identify influencers with degree analysis. This is my LinkedIn mapping. But with NodeXL, as I said, you can actually do the matrix and find out who's the most important person in the network. Identify connectors. Again, you can do the matrix in NodeXL and identify who has the highest between this centrality. We find it really useful with our volunteers because with prospect screening board members before, we just give them a wish list of prospects. But now we actually do the relationship mapping exercise first, and we already have a list of people that we know that they probably know. So we will provide that list to them, which is more targeted at their own network. And it's just more likely that they would just point out, oh, I know this person, or I can connect you with that person. As opposed to if you just give them a wish list that you have no idea that they know, they might not identify people, that they might not think about people that they might know. So it's just easier and empowers volunteers to explore their network a little bit more. Challenges that I have, I've been having data integrity issues. In my old organization, we actually have several people doing the relationship mapping, and each person entered differently. So you really need a data standard, how you enter a corporation. It's like ABC Corp. ABC Corporation. Some people put in ABC Corporation, and it throws it off because then they create another unique node. So it doesn't recognize it as the same node. So data integrity is a problem when you have multiple people entering data. Flexibility to share is a problem with NodeXL, but I think Prospect Visual and other vendor product might provide a solution to that, because this NodeXL is only on your computer. Each computer has to install that NodeXL template to be able to view it. Definition of relationships is something that you need to talk with your organization and define, like, do you want past relationships to be there? Do you want event relationships to be there? So it's something that you need to define before you start doing this. Excel versus database, again, this is all Excel, which I don't like. I would like ideally to generate the map from the database directly, but I can't do that right now. I don't want to flood my RE database with all these relationships. Some of our board members have hundreds of relationships, and it's just too big to take on to actually put them into the database and then export it. So again, vendor provided product might actually give you a better solution here. And updating, how often do we update the relationship map? And for each individual map, it takes me about 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours to do it. So like a full workday. So it's very time consuming. However, once you done enough, for our little city, our business community is very close. So once you've done enough people, important people, you select your volunteers. Like I said, 35 people can give you 2,000 connections. It's pretty much, covered everyone already. So, updating, again, like when do you update it? After you spend all this time doing it, do you update once a year or twice a year? And where do you find that time to do that? So those are the challenges I've been having. Yeah, so that's about it. And if you have any questions.
Where did you learn to do all this?
Like 2 years ago, NodeXL is kind of a test software. I downloaded, and then there's a tutorial online where you can download. It took me about 3 days to learn all about how to do the mapping. But however, right now you can download NodeXL for free over on their website, but you cannot download the tutorial anymore. The tutorial is gone. Instead, the book is called NodeXL something, NodeXL Relationship Mapping. And it's about $20. You can buy it on Amazon or wherever. And then you can learn from that. There's just the first few chapters teaches you how to map. It's actually very easy because it's Excel based. So if you're really good at Excel, it shouldn't be a problem. Any other questions?
We have a contract with Prospect Visual, and if you can talk about, and I know you did a presentation last time, why did you decide to do it, and how it works with your Prospect Visual contract?
I don't have a Prospect Visual contract. Yeah, and that's not me, unfortunately.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we have looked at Prospect Visual, but we found that the data there's not enough data for Canada.
This is Jennifer. I use Prospect Visual, and Melody, when you were talking about data integrity, the bells are ringing. Because what I found I need to do, especially as we're working down our trustee list to those who have fewer connections, I have to take the profile they give me and check first the connections and make sure they're correct, and add connections if they're missing. Because
that's right.
When the smaller it gets, the more drastic the effect on those relationships, and I don't want to send, really bad lists to the client who then sits down with the trustee. So they pull from the internet, and so there is a lot of redundancy. One is called something LLC, and the other doesn't have the LLC, and I have to combine those. So I think as the companies get better, they'll find ways to deal with that. But right now, it does take that extra step to clean it up.
Yeah, I know people who use Prospect Visual and have the similar experience. Basically, it gives you somewhere to start. So you can have a set of data to start with, and then you can add, just like you said, Jennifer, like you add more relationships and make it better and verify it. And then, so it takes probably half the time away.
Well, also, my experience is that sometimes Prospect Visual is more interested in business relationship, while we are in a nonprofit. Could you go back and show me where you incorporated your rating, that 1 to 3 rating, so it comes out in the maps? I missed it on the way through.
So this is a vertex list. So once I imported the edges, so I copy paste the 2 columns in. This generates automatically for you. That you click on the vertices and will generate like any unique node. It will have a vertex for you. And then you can see here the linkage rating. This is, you can actually do any columns you want. And this one, I just add one called linkage rating, and then I copy the linkage rating over here, and I defined it by the size. So the size here, so with a higher rating, I have a higher size, larger size here. And there's an automatic function that you can do it. Here, this is just a picture, but in NodeXL, you can actually click on something and says, do size to this column, make size, the same size as this column, where you can give it a value. So that's where I do it, incorporate it. And here, of course, is how I come up with the 1, 2, 3, and I kind of cut this Excel spreadsheet. So over here somewhere, I have this 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so it says, basically it's up to you. If there's no linkage is 1, linkage no gift is 2, and with gift is 3.
Thank you.
And I copy that over.
Melody, how do you feel about people calling you or emailing you with questions?
Yeah, they can, for sure.
Okay.
I have an email up there. You can do melodys at calgaryzoo.com now. Before it wasn't. Or you can use this email. It doesn't matter.